I actually want to talk more about York than Galleon. So by way of background, I'm Amanda Orson. I'm the founder and CEO of Galleon. Galleon is building the future for residential real estate transactions. Frankly, it's absurd that the way that we currently transact residential real estate would be recognizable to our great-grandparents. There is literally no other transaction in your life where that is true. All of them. So what we're trying to do is to anticipate a future where people actually can use software to transact real estate, and by doing so, eliminate the friction, eliminate the fees. That's the whole premise. While I am at work on that, I wanted to say that with Central Pennsylvania, I did not grow up here. I didn't go to school here. I relocated here in 2016 by way of a spreadsheet, as one does. At the time, I had just exited another company, and we knew that we needed to rebuild I was going to build another company somewhere. I did not know where to put that company. And so I indicated a bunch of places that I was sort of familiar with, and somebody happened to throw in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, who I knew from high school, believe it or not. And so I put all of these things through, opened up Excel, and scored each on cost of living, talent density, proximity to major metros and airports, state and local taxes, the walkability, availability of high quality food. That was personally a preference for me. I think it should be for everyone, and zoning laws. Lancaster won by a mile, beating out the cities that I considered, including Pittsburgh, towns like Lambertville, New Jersey, which I love, and New York City, which is actually not far from where I'm actually from. So I did not inherit my ties to this region, unlike a lot of people I think in the room. I chose them. Backing up even further though, I am originally from North Jersey and went to college in Charleston, South Carolina. But since then, I've lived in Alexandria, Virginia. I've lived in Philadelphia. I lived in Cairo, Egypt. I spent some summers in Bristol Bay, Alaska. And I lived in Northwestern Connecticut, which is the place I was right before I got here. I've lived in a lot of places, which I know is unusual. Makes sense, though, why it's a real estate startup, right? So when I tell you with confidence, the unrealized potential that I see here in Lancaster, in York, in central Pennsylvania, it's unlike anything that I've seen anywhere else. The cost structure is favorable. The location is phenomenal. The proximity up and down the eastern seaboard within hours is just unparalleled. The zoning is permissive, probably not as permissive as some people would want, but it's very permissive compared to the rest of the world. The community is hungry. Like I see it, I feel it, it's hungry. And yet, despite that, we are dangerously close to missing the moment. I skipped a little bit of the step earlier in that spreadsheet story. When I was filtering cities, I wasn't just looking at numbers. I was checking job postings, what companies were hiring here for tech roles, was there latent technical talent in the area? And it's how I stumbled across the job listing in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania that was advertising programmatic, like they were looking for somebody that understood programmatic advertising. And I was thinking to myself, who on earth in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania knows anything about programmatic advertising? And that is how I ended up working with Donna, Dave Shankweiler, and Larry Kluger at Journal Multimedia. Also Joe Berg, who's here. Thanks, Joel. In that role of working with the Central Penn Business Journal, I think I worked there for maybe 100 days because shortly after I got there, built out a digital advertising agency for them and probably increased their multiple, they sold the company, which I won't fault them for. But in that 100-day stretch, I probably went on 300 sales calls. And when I did those sales calls around this region, I was absolutely blown away by the size of some of these companies, by the health of some of these companies, by the category leadership of some of these companies, particularly that are overlooked on the coast. I think that Webb Restaurant Store is probably the leader in its category. There is no further growth that it can possibly get. It is huge. They're all quiet killers. And being a little bit arrogant, coming from New York region, I figured that I would be teaching this region something, and I got taught a lot of lessons. We have the logistics and distribution here. We also have defense tech. We have the industrial DNA, especially in New York. Most people forget this, but York was actually home to the first coal-built locomotive, the first iron steamboat, and of course, York Barbell. I could really go on a tangent about York Barbell. Could really, really go on a tangent about that missed opportunity. But this isn't flyover country. This is founding economy country. So what I wanted to point out was that this is a moment that's happening right now. It's called reindustrialization. It is led by this company, or actually other grassroots people, kind of like myself, who are terminally online, out of Detroit, Michigan, who are there trying to sort of like catalyze this cultural zeitgeist to build more things in the United States. Now, that actually started well ahead of the political tariff situation that we're all currently dealing with. But it's absolutely getting a moment. And it's not only getting a moment from the other terminally online people, it's also getting venture dollars. And importantly, it's getting a lot of young people who have been turned off by manufacturing or assembly or other work invested in doing things in hard tech. I see other studies that are getting the attention and dollars that we should be competing for. El Segundo is probably the undisputed hub right now of aerospace and also defense tech. And that makes absolutely no sense to me because Washington, D.C. is 1 hour from here. Detroit is obviously hosting this national gathering to promote hardware and robotics. Buffalo, New York, of all the crazy cities, is really going in hard at this sort of initiative. There's an opportunity here for us. We, meanwhile, have a 150 square foot facility for heavy manufacturing next to a Norfolk Southern line, sitting on 9 acres with a 40-ton bridge crane in an opportunity zone that no one knows exists outside of this region. That's what I'm talking about. So seeing this and then re-seeing this and then seeing other people talk about this, I decided I was going to take it upon myself to recruit people for York. And much to my great surprise, this little tweet generated dozens of replies, multiple founder inquiries, cold emails, several meetings, inbound interest from operators in Texas, Midwest, and New Hampshire. And I want to be very clear, these are not operators that are thinking about starting a company. These are people who have a company that would move their company. They didn't even know that York was here. All from something as pithy as a tweet, from someone who has absolutely no business talking about this. I represent nothing. I just saw an opportunity and I was like, you know what? I'm going to shout it out. The strengths of this region were clear. We have talent, not just in trades and technical fields, but in entrepreneurship and in resilience. We have one of the lowest cost bases for high capacity operations on the East Coast. We are rich in underutilized assets, and we are within a few hours of most of the Eastern Seaboard. But our gaps are just as real. Networks, we still operate in silos. After I had all of these meetings, a lot of people wanted to be connected with who should I talk to next? Where is the capital? Where can I find space? Where can I learn? And I, living here and being well-connected, struggled to place that with anybody. That is a problem. Collaboration, so as an outsider, forgive me for pointing this out and poking a little fun of it. We are inexplicably really bad at crossing bridges in this region. I don't get it. There's no boogeyman that I'm aware of under it, but we do not do it. And it's so ridiculous. Literally and metaphorically, we need to collaborate. This is a real thing. Capital, unfortunately, most institutional money still flows to the coastal cities. I think for manufacturing, there will be actually an opportunity. I could argue that York, especially because of its proximity, is kind of coastal. It's close enough. It certainly is much more logical a place to put a company than El Segundo. And visibility. This is the one that's the most damning for us. People don't invest in or move to places that they don't even know exist. This is how much inquiry volume we got. And these were from companies like, one was a foundry operator, one guy was building manufacturing equipment for for plastic mold injection, 3D printers for learning facilities. It's just across the board, the spectrum of manufacturing. So anyway, this brings me to why I'm standing here tonight. We don't need a better pitch, we need a better system. And I do think that that's what is so amazing about what White Rose is leading and what KIC is actually going to help realize here. It's not just capital, it's actually connectivity, it's accountability, and it is creating the flywheel, and it is crossing the bridge. Braided River will help surface and support those early founders. CIE will help validate and structure those businesses. White Rose will obviously fund and help fund the winners and help build trust in the market. And hopefully the Keystone Innovation collaboration binds it together with shared infrastructure. That's a system, and systems are what scale. I'm sharing this because this is literally how I helped to place a city or place a company in cities. These are the kinds of metrics that I was looking at. So before I built Galleon, I was the CEO of a company called Curve in the United States, leading its US expansion. It's a British fintech company. And my first job was actually going through and helping them select a city. This is literally a metric, very similar to the spreadsheet that I created for myself moving here. These are the things that matter. York hits a lot of these notes for a lot of companies. So that's why I wanted to share my unfiltered, unbiased, actual slide that I used to model out where to put that company. Pennsylvania and central Pennsylvania specifically, should be positioned as a first choice destination, not a fallback plan. The region could easily become the El Segundo of AgTech. It could easily be the East Coast home for defense tech. Like, it's absurd that we're not. It's an hour from Washington, 2 from Philly, and one of the few regions in the East Coast with the zoning, space, and price aligned. We have everything except the spotlight and someone who actually cares about building this brand on a national level. So that's my call to action. Central Pennsylvania is on the verge of something meaningful. But moments like this, the cultural zeitgeist happening right now, does not last forever. We need to move faster. We need to cross bridges and talk to each other. We need to bet bigger. And we need to get a whole lot louder outside of the building. We can put York and this region back on the map. We can not just build here, but we can also be a part of telling the world why they should too. Thank you.